Welcome to Midlife. Today, we're joined by Mariah Prince-Allen, nurse practitioner and creator of Hormone Intelligent Leadership. And Mariah, you could not have arrived in my life a moment too soon. This is perfect timing. Before we hit record, I was saying that, I've been in perimenopause and I've been thriving. And all of a sudden, I have taken a turn and it's not pretty. I am not sleeping. I don't know what's going on. And I got lots of support. So I'm really excited for personal, but also I've ever since I heard about your work, I was really intrigued. So you are a nurse practitioner, creator of Hormone Intelligent Leadership, and I'm really excited to have you in Midlife today.
I am so excited, Lisa, that you're having me on, and I can't wait to pour into your audience. And I just want to say thank you so much for thinking of me to have this conversation today. I'm truly honored.
Good, my pleasure. Okay. Oh, and I said I was going to turn off my phone and I didn't. That is part of what's been happening is Lisa doesn't have a brain. So let's turn that off. Okay. So you coined the phrase hormone intelligent leadership.
Yes.
What was the moment, clinically or personally, when you realized that we were mislabeling what was really happening to midlife women at work?
Yeah, I would definitely say more clinical. In my virtual practice, telehealth for her, see a lot of high achieving women who, have climbed the corporate ladder. They are, female entrepreneurs who are doing amazing in business. But then they kind of start to have this this drop in their performance when they should actually be kind of having a peak at their kind of should be at the peak of their careers, right?
Okay.
So one of the things that I started to learn and to realize was that we were calling these women burnt out, just from the
Mm,
hustle and grind of being, high achieving women having a high demanding career and the typical burnout strategies and stuff was not helping these women.
right.
And one of the things that I kind of realized by just looking at the data and just really seeing patterns in my practice was that we were missing something in the workplace that I then deemed hormone intelligent leadership because we were misdiagnosing these women not only in the medical practice world, but also in their performances at work.
Okay. Okay. So what does hormone intelligent leadership look like or what does it mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hormone intelligent leadership is really having the intelligence, literally, to understand what hormonal changes look like in women. And
Okay.
being able to understand and how do you support these women in the workplace? How do we
Okay.
have a hormone intelligent work culture so that we are supporting women?
This
Because,
okay, this I love.
yes,
So that was gonna be my question is it up to us to figure it out? Because when we're going through it, we don't always know, and burnout is real. So I love that you're speaking at, the corporation level, and you're speaking to these high achieving women too. Um, so because your work is centered around high achieving women who are used to kind of powering through, and I am so guilty of this throughout my career and throughout my life, quite honestly. And I keep saying in this season, what if I do less? And I'm not always great at doing that. Um, but what do so diagnose me for a second. What do we think is usually wrong with us when we come to you?
yeah, so I think women are usually feeling like they're having kind of like a midlife crisis.
Mm,
They're so fatigued, they're having all this brain fog, they're not sleeping at night. And when they go to traditional medicine providers, they're being told that their labs look amazing. They don't know what's wrong with them. They're being, diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And I've seen a lot of ADHD going around in women who are in their 40s. And I'm like, women in their 40s are
okay.
not ADHD, guys. Like, that's not a diagnosis you get in your 40s. But and then we actually look at their hormones and look at their hormone levels, we're realizing that they're depleted. So I call that hormonal bankruptcy, right? Because as women, we are outliving our hormone life expectancies because we're living a lot.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's just realizing
okay.
that, these symptoms are not just related to burnout or stress. And we're giving women, these generic advices, exercise more, sleep better, manage your stress, all of those things. And they're doing that. That's the thing that I want women to understand is they're doing all the things.
Right.
Yeah.
We're doing all the things. I
Oh,
do all the things. And like, you just blew me away with what you said. And it, like, again, I have not slept well in like 5 nights. So, like, and normally, like, my favorite thing is sleep. And so this is distressing.
yeah.
But I can't, like, there was just some moments of what you said that really just were like a lightning bolt. So, okay. So I want to talk about the burnout because you say what leaders often call burnout is, oh, I know what. Okay. So you were talking about we're outliving our hormone. Say that again. They outliving the hormone piece.
Yes, women are outliving their hormonal capacities. Yeah.
What does that mean? Is it because we're living longer? Is it because we're
Living long.
working longer?
Yeah, so we're definitely living longer. So if we think about, back in the day, most women were deceased by the time they were in their 30s, right? So they
Yeah.
never probably even made it to perimenopause, menopausal ages. And now we have women living to their 90s. So we're seeing that what happens to women when they have technically outlived their biological hormone reserves. Um,
Ooh, okay.
yeah. And, we've tied that a lot to, other health conditions that women experience way more than men and tying that back to that loss of hormonal reserve.
Yes. I love conversations with midlife women on Threads. We are so here for it and we are so unapologetic. And someone said the simplest, funniest thing yesterday on Threads. They said, there's a reason not all women go through menopause together because we need to have it in batches. Otherwise, the world would stop working.
It literally would. Because if you
Yeah.
think about yes, because I mean, if you think about the age of women who are going through the menopause transition, they're in their 40s to like, mid 50s. These are the women
Yeah.
who are carrying the entire world on their backs, right?
Right, raising kids, taking care of aging parents, kicking ass
Yes.
at work, trying to thrive in a relationship or partnership or loving being single regardless of, like, the relationship status. Like, there are so many areas of our life that we are giving energy to and vitality to and our life force to, and in perimenopause and menopause, the life force can feel like it's draining away, and we don't have as many fucks left to give because there's not enough time in the day or energy left. So this, God, you're rocking my world. So okay, now let's talk about burnout. So you say what leaders often call burnout is that decreased capacity related to hormonal shifts. So a woman's at work, she is a leader, she is noticing some shifts. She thinks she's supposed to be peak performing and instead she's more in a valley of burnout.
Yes.
What happens next? How do you help her get back on track?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, and even when we think about from a medical perspective or even corporate perspective, is actually trying to really define what her symptoms are and if they actually categorize to burnout, right? So for
Okay.
most people, if they are truly a burnt out, taking a vacation will give them back the spunk that they,
Mhm.
right? They're like, okay,
Yes.
yep. Or even, maybe taking a little bit less off their plate may fix their problems, right?
Yes.
Or, doing all of the traditional burnout things that we do. But if we're doing all of those things, we have taken the vacation and we still come back the same way we left.
Right. That is yeah, that is, or like my favorite was, this is how I knew I needed to leave my last job. I came back and for a day I was refreshed, but by the end of that day I was like, "Oh." Yeah.
Think too, like, I always tell, like, what I try to teach, corporate and government agencies is that we are calling these women burnt out and we're allowing them to leave the workforce. And what they're doing is they're taking all of that intellectual property because they've been in your company for 10,
Right.
20 years, and they're making their own company that is more aligned with how they want to live their lives. And they're becoming your greatest competitors.
So
Because that's what
true.
women
I
do.
love that you gave voice to that. Now when you say that to a company, what's their response usually?
Yeah, I think for a lot of times they're just blown away because they haven't really thought about it like that.
It's so
And
true.
Yeah, and I try to tell companies all the time that really investing in women's health and women's wellness is like one of the greatest investments you can ever make in a company. It really do impact the bottom line of the companies and the financial stability of companies. I mean, women
So
are
true.
we're amazing.
And so not only are we amazing, but we're gap fillers. So we see the work that's not being done and just lean in. We don't wait. We don't assume someone else is doing it. Um, God, it's so true. And I'm getting a little feisty right now because I'm thinking about, if this were a male problem, we would have solved it already. And I'm in a place, and yes, I'm super ragey at 54, and like I am in a place where I'm really seeing very clearly how women are not supported, how things aren't covered by insurance that should, like, I've been paying out of pocket for my hormone pellets, like, and all the things. And if this was a man's problem, it would be handled. It would be covered. Those little
Exactly.
blue pills, I think they're covered.
They are very much so covered, and that is one of the things I mentioned in my TEDx. I literally said,
Okay.
"Imagine if men went through menopause. Like,
Oh, good Lord, I
this
don't even
would
want to see
not
that
be a
world.
conversation."
I mean, they'd fix it because they could not so y'all,
No.
I'm gonna tell tales out of school. My husband had a vasectomy, and that man and his poor balls, you would have thought the world was
And
ending. And I lacked compassion, and I really tried. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not he's so much more compassionate than I am. He's his so, like, but I said to him, you just need to understand, like, I've been bleeding and having cramps since I was 13.
right.
So, like, a couple days of drippy balls and your world is ending?
I know
Okay.
we all hear of the stories of the man flu, like, it's just a different level of, I'm gonna say, like, perseverance.
Yes, and again, I'm not bashing men, I'm just keeping it real. Like, we have been having a period and dealing with blood loss, hormone shifts, mood swings, cramps if you get them, all the things for decades. We have built resilience because of those things that men just have never had to build.
Right.
So it's just different. But I love what you said about how much corporations lose out on when they lose women who are taking the knowledge with them.
Yes.
I found out after I left my last job that they outsourced internal communications to AI. And I was like, well, isn't the point of internal communications to be human centered? Like, that broke my heart, but I was like, "Y'all do you, okay." Um,
Make it make sense.
whatever. So, I wanna talk about the actual damage.
Yes.
How damaging is it for women and organizations? Here's what I've seen. I used to do branding for entrepreneurs, and I branded a lot of entrepreneurs over 40 women. And I didn't realize it at the time, but now that I'm in that age and stage of life, I get it. They were
Yeah.
forced out of their day job. They created a business of their own because they had to out of necessity. And I was not forced out, but I could see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
So I'm very concerned about what's happening for companies who, when midlife hormonal shifts are treated as like a personal failure instead of like a biological transition. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I would say the damage is astronomical.
Yeah.
There is data that shows that the US economy loses $24 billion annually due to the menopause transition, whether that is women
Whoa.
emotions they should be taking, women stepping down, women leaving the workforce altogether, women showing up to work but not really working, all of the things, right? And that number is expected to potentially like quadruple when the millennial generation goes through menopause because we also have a little bit less um, tolerance of what the women before us have gone through.
Yes.
So,
And and good on you for that because it's
yeah,
all too easy to, like Gen X, we're I love being Gen X, but you're right, millennials aren't gonna take this shit.
no.
And I'm here for it. I'm like, "Do it, millennials, do it. Change the system, break it all down." So, companies are losing talent, they're losing money. Let's talk about the cultural losses when women leave the workforce, specifically leave organizations in midlife.
Yeah, I think that is also huge because when we think about the women who have built their careers in corporate America, and or different other organizations, they typically are the women who also brought other women up with them for the most part. You know, they're
Yes.
reaching back to mentor the newer employees. They have a little bit more of compassion in the workplace for people who may be going through different health crises or family issues to help really manage those situations better. And so when you lose someone who has, helped to build the company, but also have helped to build the newer generation in the company, it's a
Yeah.
huge loss. And it also turns to a lot of other people feel like, okay, well, my go-to person or the manager that I liked isn't here anymore. And they too are looking for another job, right? Because they don't feel as they're at there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I appreciate this conversation because this was my experience at my last company. Really helped. I was very instrumental in building the culture at this company. It grew 4 times its size in the 3 years I was there. I'm a builder, so I know how to live in those spaces. I knew how to take the culture from scrappy, where everyone knows each other's name, to, like, learning how to be in multiple floors and not know everybody's name and still have culture.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that broke my heart when I left, is I knew that was gonna change because I was already seeing it change.
Mhm.
And the other thing, and God bless my former CEO, brilliant guy. Loved working with him, one of my favorite people I've ever worked with, honestly. He was so coachable in terms of communications. But the 2 times I mentioned menopause to him, he literally turned and walked away from me.
God.
And I thought, one of these days, I'm gonna get him to stay in the room with me when I talk about it. And
Yeah.
both times I talked about it, I wasn't speaking from my own experience. I was once talking about how he had asked me what had happened at my last company, and I said, "Well, if you want my honest opinion, I think 2 menopausal women were at the helm, and they weren't handling it well." And
Mhm.
he just completely shut down, and I was like, "That was the truth. I'm not,"
Right.
and then the second time I said, "I love that we have this lactation room. We should think about having a cooling corner
Mhm.
for or a cool corner for women going through hot flashes," and again, turned
Turns it
and
down.
I thought, "Okay, we'll wait and see when your wife gets there how you feel about these conversations."
Exactly. And I think too, like it's so interesting that you mentioned the lactation room because conversations that I have with companies and government agencies is I'm so thankful and so glad that as a woman of childbearing age, you offer maternity benefits. That's amazing. But why do the menopausal women have to pay out of pocket for the functional and comprehensive care that they deserve? Because it's not covered
Ooh.
by the insurance companies that you provide, right? So let's have some conversations with your insurance company about what does comprehensive menopause look like so that you can actually benefit the women who are going through that stage and they don't have to pay out of pocket for the care they deserve.
Are they open to that? I love this so much.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the progressive companies are starting to think about stuff like that. And I know like a lot of companies are starting to have it where like their HSA and FSA cards and stuff like
Mhm.
that can cover like functional medicine things, which
Okay,
is nice.
great.
So even if it's just like that small of a change, I'm like, you have to be able, I'm like, there's things that women need, like testosterone, for example, that is not covered by insurance, right? So if we're not gonna fight until we fight that battle, then let's
Right.
do another option so that they can actually get the care that they deserve.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just got a new, doctor, and I've been on pellets for years, and they're just I just have got the intuition that I need to go off them, and they're just not working anymore.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my doctor about that, and she was like, "We're gonna go to creams and patches." And I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "But testosterone won't be covered."
Right.
And I was like, "It's still gonna be cheaper than what I was paying out of pocket for the pellets, so bring it."
Right.
But it's just I love that you are leading the charge for this conversation with companies because it can't be one-to-one driven. It's gonna change will happen too slowly. So it
Yes.
has to be at the corporation level, like it or not. Like, women will go out and find their own resources and their own solutions for themselves, but
Right.
companies need to be thinking about this to your point so they don't lose out on the incredible talents, the loss of knowledge, but also, again, I'm just gonna culture's big for me, like the culture piece, because it's not just what midlife women bring to organizational culture, it's also what we teach younger women about growing older and what to fear if every single older woman is opting out of corporate life.
Right. Yeah,
I
for sure.
really worry about that. Like,
Me
I
too.
know young women don't think they're gonna get old, but it
They
happens.
will. They definitely will. And I think too for younger women, especially what do we call the Gen Z, Gen whatever we're calling
Sure.
them. Yeah,
Yes.
the generation after me. These women are thinking so much differently about their health than I think we ever have, right? I can't tell you
Okay.
how many 20-year-olds are wanting to know what their hormones are doing, right?
I love
Been
that.
data that's showing that this generation is not even drinking like prior
I
generations.
know.
Right?
I'm
So they
so
are so health conscious.
really fascinated by that. Like, I love it on one hand because I think, like, what were their parents doing? A whole generation is like, I'm opting out of that. But also, what different consciousness they've been raised on that they think about drinking so differently than previous generations, where my generation couldn't wait to be 21. We weren't waiting till 21.
Right.
And, my midlife friends and I, we love our cocktails. So
Yes.
I'm fascinated by that, and I'm curious how that will shift the health, like, the diseases that are more prevalent in future
Yeah.
generations.
I think it's gonna force the medical society to really hone into functional health, functional wellness, and not be so much on treating diseases. Because,
Yes. Yes.
these this upcoming generation wants to know every single thing about how to optimize their health now so that they don't have to have the things that prior generations have had. And I
Yeah.
think also too for them that they are definitely the technology generation. So when we think about the workforce, they have grown up with a cell phone in their hands since they can hold it, right? So
Yes.
they too are not going to tolerate being mistreated in the workplace, or if they're having brain fog and hot flashes, they're not sleeping, they're
They're not
not
taking
going
it.
to tolerate that. They're just going to be
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I can just, become I can do something else that's more
Yeah,
technology
become an
savvy,
influencer,
become
you're
an
about to say.
influencer, do something in AI. Like they
Yeah.
have such a creative brain where a lot of them are not even entering into the traditional workforce. So we have to also think about
Yes.
that too.
That's something that I think about too, is who's gonna run things. I don't think it's gonna be run the way it's been run. I
No,
think big it's my hope anyway that big corporations have to rethink how they work, and I mean, I just see a lot of this kind of dying off. I don't know how it works from a global economy standpoint,
right.
but I just feel like there's a new way emerging, and I'm excited because I feel like what we've been handed down doesn't work for society, and we see it more and more. The divide between people who have enough and who don't is
Mhm.
getting vaster and greater, and it's it's terrifying. Most people just aren't equipped for emergencies, let alone health emergencies.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even being equipped, to as you said earlier, like you've paid out of pocket for your HRT and you've done that for a long time. The average probably woman cannot afford to pay
You're
for
right.
HRT out of pocket. So they're forced to get whatever's covered by their insurance, which is not always
Yes.
need.
I recognize that that is such a privilege, and And I didn't even necessarily recognize it was a privilege until I had 2 people in my life go through cancer at the same time last year.
Yeah.
One had really terrible insurance and one had really good insurance, and the one on really good insurance had very early stage cancer and got all the treatments necessary to eradicate everything. The other one had a surgery and never her doctor never told her to get chemo or radiation or anything, and I hope that was uh, an educated decision rather than a cost decision.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really just stood out to me that, oh, the disparity is huge, and I worry for I worry for women. I worry for society, but I worry for women specifically.
Yeah, and I think too, especially because women are already like less likely to put themselves first, like they're going to take care of everyone else and then finally get to themselves. And by the time they do that, they usually don't have much resources to take
Yes.
care of themselves.
Yeah. So, hormone intelligent leadership, what does that actually look like in practice at work in an ideal scenario? Or maybe let me rephrase that. In a world after you've come in and supported them.
Yes. So hormone intelligent leadership first looks like awareness. So having honest conversations, trainings, workshops in the workplace. And what I like to do sometimes too is kind of do like what I call a power table and kind of doing like an executive roundtable with some of the women
Okay.
throughout all various forms of leadership in the company. So I can get some really good insights on how they feel as though their company is supporting them and then take
Yes.
that like anonymous data back to leadership and do a workshop and have them actually audit how they're doing in the workplace when it comes down to supporting women. And a lot of times is that people are they don't know what they don't know. And so sometimes we can't
Yeah.
even blame the leaders. Like they never thought about that. Or they're afraid that they're going to get pulled into the HR room because they talked to some woman about their hot flashes, right? But I think it's having honest conversations and realizing what wellness looks like in your company because it's not getting who gets the most steps on their Fitbit. Like that's not wellness in a company. Um,
Right.
yeah. And it's also realizing if you have a star woman and you've noticed that her performance is starting to decline, like figuring out how to have a conversation with her is like, it's like, is this burnout? Like, what's going on? Like, are you sleeping at night? Like, how can I support you? Because one of the things I realize is that women, for one, when they're going through the menopause transition, they really feel alone. And the
Yeah.
moment somebody gives them the space to be vulnerable enough to say exactly what's going on, they become like this nonstop waterfall. Like you're gonna get all the details, right?
It's so
Because they've
true.
been waiting to say what's really been happening and to have a space where they still feel supported in that and not ostracized.
You know, we celebrate engagements and babies and weddings and all the things on a woman's journey up to the point where she is in a marriage, raising children, and then we kind of drop her off and are like, "You're on your own now, girl." And the phases after that, I mean, I didn't want children. I inherited my niece with 9 days notice when she was a year old, and I was not equipped for that, and I needed to talk to people who were.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I had mom friends that I was like, "What is this mother?" And God bless them, they saved me. And thank God my husband was a natural nurturer, but I feel like we do just white knuckle it thinking, "No, no, no, don't say anything. God forbid you say something." And that's what I love about threads. Everyone's talking about it in our midlife threads, and it's so refreshing, like the genie is out of the bottle in
Mhm.
those conversations. I have a friend, one of my best friends who's 10 years older than I am, and, I love talking to her because first of all, she's always the first in on, like, research and the latest and everything. She's so health conscious, and so I get the benefit of that and what she's tried and what's working. But if
Yeah.
you don't have access to that, it is so isolating.
Very much so. So I tell people it's bringing in honest conversations, but then also too, it's really looking at the work culture of your workplace, right? So are you true? Like, what does it really mean to support a woman in the workplace?
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of tools to support men in the workplace, right? So there's data that shows that immediately after a man has a baby, his income goes up, whereas his spouse's income goes down, right? So how do we have these
And she
honest
doesn't recover her income for quite a while, her earning
Exactly.
power.
Yep. So it's like, what do we do when a female client or a female employee is experiencing some brain fog, right? How do we support them in the workplace where they don't feel as though they are, losing it? And, there's also data that shows that these women are working at so many hours at home and after hours to try to
Yes.
compensate their productivity because of these things.
Yes.
So I think a lot of it is when I say hormone intelligent leadership, it really is equipping the leaders with the tools and the resources to be able to support their female clients in the workforce.
I love this so much. I'm so glad you're doing the work you're doing. The way you
Thank
talk about it, I
you.
can tell you're the perfect person for it.
I just say, Lisa, that by the time I get there, we better not be having these same conversations.
Right? No, you will have solved it all by then. I have faith. So let's talk about like the underbelly. I'm gonna call it the underbelly. Confidence. Um, when we can't remember our thought from one moment to the next, which is real and alarming, when people talk over us or stop giving us new projects or like people start treating us differently. The world, I'm going to say this. The world starts treating women differently when we become visibly aged.
Mhm.
And so that can be whatever age it is. I noticed that like right around like I'm going to be 55 this year, and it's been in the last couple of years that I can tell the world's starting to treat me a little differently, and I'm like, "Oh, you're cute. You don't know I'm just getting started." Um but there's so much of what we've built to this point around identity and confidence and belief in ourselves that can really just take a hit. So how and that's the emotional side, but then there's the hormone side. So how does hormonal change impact confidence and self-trust? And how do we help women rebuild both with kind of without gaslighting ourselves?
Yeah, I think for me, it is one creating a space of validation for women to understand that what they are feeling is actually valid and real, that it's not in their heads. But then also to empowering these women to understand that, when you ask them, for example, do they want to go back to their younger selves? They all say no. They
Yeah.
just want the vitality of their younger self with the
Yes.
wisdom that they have currently. And when we think about, hormone replacement therapy or menopausal care, that's what we give back to these women, right? So we give
Yes.
them back their mental clarity, their sleeping, their energy. So now they have the vitality of their 20 something year old self with the
Yes.
knowledge of their age, and they become triple powerhouses in their second decades, right?
It is so good. Like, that's why I'm kind of horrified at what's happening this week because, like, man, when you've got the sleep, like when the sleep is good and the hormones are good, it is like you're just on fire in life. And I love it so much. Okay. I love that you say that the body isn't broken, it's evolving
It's
because
evolving.
it can feel like a total breakdown and we're never going to get back on track.
Yeah.
So, what does that reframe unlock for women, both emotionally and professionally?
Yeah, I think for one, it just really lets women know that they still got it. Because I think a lot of women feel like I don't have it anymore. Like my libido is low, like my energy is low, like something is just not right. And I feel like I'm losing my spark and my spunk, right? And they get told everything else that is happening that really isn't happening, that they're stressed, they're burnt out, they just need to sleep more, they need to exercise. Like they get told all this generic information. And when they're doing all the things and those things aren't working, they start to feel like they're failing. But
Yeah.
when we actually sit down with women and have honest conversations and really think about how their hormones are impacting their everyday life and how their hormones have played into how they're feeling, they start to really say like, "Oh, okay, so I'm not broken. My body is just going through another transition." I'm like, "Yes, the same way it went through puberty. It's now going
Yes.
through perimenopause," right?
Yes.
Just giving them that validation to know that they're not crazy. It's not in their heads, but then empowering them with the tools and the knowledge. Say, "This is what you need to do, sis. Like, this is it. This is the handbook that no one else is probably going to give you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need that. We need that badly. Last week went and got my second shingle shot and it took me out.
Yeah.
Took me out. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be fine." And then like 9 p.m. that night, I'm shaking uncontrollably.
Still.
It was a nightmare. And I was like, "Oh, like I can resist." And so part of me was like, resist, and I don't know why I had that thought to resist, but I remember like climbing into bed and just being like, just be with yourself. Like just sit with yourself in this moment and like give care, give compassion, like
Yes.
like self-talk. So I was really self-talk. I was like, "Oh, I love you so." Like I really got woo-woo about it, but it really helped because it was awful. It was
Yeah.
terrible. And I think so often, especially high achievers, we can beat ourselves up. It's like, well, it's not how it used to be, so it sucks.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, but I'm choosing to use words like you're saying. I'm going to choose, instead of it's not like it used to be, to no, maybe it's not. And it's evolved. So how do we celebrate and nurture and cherish this? Because this age and stage, one day I will look back on and wish I was still here.
Right. Just like we used to do when we were in our 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
It's
I think
so true.
yeah, I think it's giving yourself grace.
Yeah.
I usually, and tell it for her, it's not just me, the medical provider, but we have an amazing life and health coach who helps our women too. Because I think a lot of times in this stage that women are in, it's not just a biological shift, but it's also an identity shift. Like, who am I now that my kids are
Yes.
grown? Do I really
Yes.
still man? Do I really want the job that society says I should have had in my 20s, in my 40s and 50s? So a lot of times it's actually trying to redefine who they are going to be in the second half of their life. And
Yes.
allowing women to process all of that and say, it's okay if you want to be a different version of Mariah in your 40s and 50s than you were in your 20s and 30s. That's okay. And just let
Yeah.
them know that it is okay, because I think a lot of times as high achieving women, we are always living the standards and the expectations of society and our family and friends. And now when we get a little bit older, we're like, that's not really the life that I wanted. And now I'm going to live life for me. And no, I'm not having a midlife crisis, but this is now it's my time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is really key to thriving in midlife, is having that um come to Jesus with yourself
Yeah.
and not burning the house down. There's a middle ground. Like if you're in an unhappy marriage and you can't resolve it, then yes, divorce is the solution. But if it's there's a lot of great divorces, and I get that. And I want everyone to do what they need to do. I think biologically, we have been so wired as women to want and need a man's approval, love, support, fill in the blank. And at this age and stage, we stop wanting or needing it. And sometimes that may make us think we're out of love or we need to leave the relationship. I don't think that's necessarily true. And I think if we had ways to talk to our men that could be productive. I'm fortunate that I am married to someone who like lets me express whatever I need to express. And I always do it constructively, but like we have conversations that are really hard and really uncomfortable and not ugly, but just uncomfy.
Yeah. But that's
About like, oh, go ahead.
I said, but that's how you grow.
Yes. And that's what I mean is I'm grateful because we're growing together at this age rather than growing apart at this age.
Mhm.
Um, I can say I don't have any drive right now, or I can say like, I can say, don't last for me, dude, because this doesn't need I don't need a lot of time anymore. I know you take a lot of pride in lasting for your lady, but like, please don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like things have just changed, and being able to have those conversations safely and comfortably um, is everything.
Yeah. And I think too, it's
Yeah.
having that good support system, whether that is in a partner, friend group, spiritual group. It really is. This is the time where I think women have not really taken care of themselves up until this point. Again, they've put that
Yeah.
on the back burner. But this is really the time, I think, to be really honest with yourself about where you are, not just in your career and not all the hats that you wear, but where are you truly physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? And where are
Yes.
actual deficits are outside of just your hormonal deficits? Like, where are you also having deficits where you need your cup refilled and taking time to do just that?
Man, if we just focus, if we gave ourselves permission, when we give ourselves permission to spend our free time thinking about this,
Yeah,
that could change everything. Like, what do I want to pour into? What do I want less of? What lights me up? What do I want to walk away from?
right.
Like, I think often at this age, we can be very reactionary because of the ragey hormonal feelings, all the feels. And if we took a step back and made decisions from grace,
Hmm.
I just think the rage wouldn't go away, and we need our rage. Like, I think it's here for a reason, but it would allow us to navigate without so much collateral damage.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I worry about the collateral damage sometimes of this age. I think it's fun to have no fucks left to give, but I also think it can. I've talked about this on the podcast before. The shrapnel of that, the emotional shrapnel of that to the rest of the world is not necessarily fair. Um, so if you haven't already touched on it, what would a truly modern woman-centered workplace look like if we designed it with midlife in mind? I mean, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about
Yes.
this.
So I think that the modern world would one look like women having the support that they truly need. But I always think of it, if you really want me to be super biased, I always think it's women running the corporations because once we do that, we know what we need. So we bring that to the work.
Yeah.
So most female entrepreneurs that I talk to who have, other employees, they have these grace periods and these support systems, and they're having these conversations in their workplace. But I also think too that in modernized medicine and modernized corporations, what that look like is women getting the medical help and support that they need in this
Yes.
transition. And as companies, we're having conversations and we're holding insurance companies and medical providers all accountable to take care of these women. And there is no such thing because I get a lot of questions of people asking me, like, how do I have this conversation with men? And there really is no men versus women in the workplace. We are all human. So, how do the men humans ally to use their masculinity energy to support and advocate for their female employees or their female colleagues, right? So it's just like having things like what you said, right? So do we have, you know, cooling rooms in spaces when a woman hasn't,
Yeah.
maybe have slept in a couple of days? Does she have the ability to work from home? How are we also looking at people's, blood sugar intakes? We're doing all these, health fit challenges and stuff like that. But where does menopausal care come into that fitness challenge that you guys are having at work? Um,
Oh, love that.
so how are we having these honest conversations? And also too, like what does the leadership pipeline look like for women who are in their 40s and 50s? Like, are we supporting them to continue to be the bosses that they are in the workplace, or are we forcing them down the corporate ladder?
Right. Oh god, so important to look at that.
Yeah. So it's all of those things. It's really taking into considerations what does your workplace policies and procedures look like? Like what does your work culture look like? And
Yeah.
ideal world, it is everybody coming together in an intergenerational environment, being able just to support humans. The same way we support moms who have come back to work is the same way that we have to support menopausal women as well, because they too are going through this huge hormonal transition. It's the exact same. Hormones are
It
raging both
is.
positions.
And just like I was saying before, like at work, there was always the baby shower or the bridal shower or the whatever shower. And there just isn't the the support or awareness to support of and we don't need a menopause shower, but like, just the awareness of like, hey, I might not be of your generation, but I'm here to support you with what you're going through and have compassion for what you're going through. I think that's so important. So what's something you wish every midlife woman knew about her body before she started like blaming what was going on or judging what was going on?
Yeah. I think the one thing I would want every woman to know is that they don't have to struggle through whatever that change may be. And
Okay.
I think that is especially for a lot of high achieving women, a lot of women who have had, past traumas or anything of that nature, we have this built in resilience and we want menopause and the menopause transition to be one more thing that we survive. But it doesn't
Yes.
that way. It can be the thing that we truly thrive through if we are also knowledgeable enough to start being able to recognize the symptoms and recognize them earlier. And I think also to taking note of that, because when we journal or patternize our symptoms, when we go to speak to our healthcare providers, we're not speaking from a place of just randomness, but we can come to a place
Sure.
and say like, "Hey, I've noticed all of these things over the past couple of months. I think it is X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z," right? And so you go there as an empowered advocate for yourself and not a damsel in distress. And they don't know what to do with that.
That's so important. Take the agency, like to have agency over what's happening.
Yes.
This is so crucial. Don't white Midlife is a very specific time in life, and I love it. Do I love all the aches and pains that accompany it? No. Do I love the sleepless nights that come with it? No. However, there's a choice to embrace this era
Mhm.
or to white knuckle it.
Yes.
And the reason I call the show Welcome to Midlife is I want everyone to feel like the best is still around. It's not yet to
Mhm.
come, but it's still here. It could be still to come. I don't know what your life is like, but I don't want you to think it's over because you've reached an age or a stage. There's so much here. It's a conscious choice to arm ourselves with knowledge, to have agency, and to not just sit back and let it all happen to us and think we're the victim, to your point.
Right. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I think too, it's also like learning what life looks like after menopause, because there
Yes.
are a lot of health challenges and stuff that comes up with women who have gone through the menopause transition. There's data that shows that, potentially all these hormone spikes that we have throughout our lifetime is maybe why women have higher risk of Alzheimer's disease than men. We've
Okay.
learned that, our estrogen is very cardioprotective. It protects our heart function. And when we lose that, in 2020, it was the American Heart Association that deemed the menopause transition as a great risk for women developing cardiovascular disease. So it's also thinking about life outside of that too and how all of that is impacting
Yes.
our overall health.
Yes. Don't you also think that the cardiovascular health increase risk is because of the sleep issues?
I think it's because of the sleep issues. I think it's also because of the fluctuations in our metabolic health and our glucose and
Okay.
metabolism. And, women start to gain a lot of weight in this era that they never had before. And all of that's just
Could
linked to hormone.
GLP-1s be supportive to menopausal women?
I am actually a big proponent of GLP-1s and supporting
Yeah.
menopausal women because there was some data in the Menopause Society journal that talked about like even just like what we call like microdosing, so like or baby dosing
Yes, that's
a
that's what I
GLP-1,
do.
yeah, a
Yeah.
GLP-1 and how that actually really is beneficial for perimenopausal women. So I am a big proponent of it in my practice.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that because it's something that I just intuitively was like, "I think this is supportive to me, so I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing."
Yep.
Um, yeah. So, okay, so for leaders actually, for anyone listening, what is the cost, just across the board, of not becoming hormone intelligent?
I think the cost of not becoming hormone intelligent in 2026 and beyond is the cost of the sustainability and the vitality of your company. Because we are moving to being more progressive. A lot of big companies are starting to have these conversations, starting to have menopausal care wrapped into their company benefits. And if you do not get on board, you will be definitely left behind and out of business.
Mm. Well said. Wow. And then finally, if midlife is more of an initiation, I was talking about like you can white knuckle it or you can embrace it. So if it's more of an initiation than a decline, What kind of a leader can women become on the other side of this?
Oh my gosh, they can truly become, I think, women are already powerhouses. So when I think about and I see the transition of what happens to my clients once we've started their hormone replacement therapy and we start to give them comprehensive menopause care, their capability and their capacity is just wild. Because, I think it is like these women who they have so much knowledge and so much life experiences, and all they needed was their energy back and their confidence
Yeah.
back and their sleep back. And once you give that to them, they just soar. And not only just in like their work environment, but in their home life, in their community, like they're back to like being on top of everything that they used to lead and leading it with so much more fire and grace. It is beautiful.
Yes. And really that is the dynamic duo of midlife is fire and grace.
Yeah,
I think if we when we choose, because it has to be a conscious choice to
it
do
definitely
both,
do.
but when we choose to harness the fire and the grace, it's two very different energies, but they're so compatible. And I think that's my favorite thing actually about midlife is that dance of fire and grace.
Yes.
Um Oh my gosh. Okay, so if people wanna learn more about your work, about who you are, about what you're up to in the world, where can they go?
Yeah, so I am on all social media platforms as just my name. I keep it simple. So Mariah Prince Allen. You can also find me on my personal website, which is mariahprinceallen.com. And then telehealth for her is telehealthforher.com for anyone that's interested in actual medical care. And for those who are
Amazing.
interested in like consulting work or having these conversations in the workplace, my personal website will get you on my calendar.
Okay, awesome. Wow, you have been a revelation today, Mariah. I knew this conversation would be juicy, but I didn't know all the places it would go. Thank you.
You are welcome, Lisa. This was so good. And I just want to say thank you for your vulnerability, your honesty, and all of your energy because I think that that just transcended this conversation to a whole nother level.
Oh, I felt it. I'm here with you. So for everyone listening, thanks for listening. We love having these conversations and to be continued. Enjoy your journey in midlife. It is yeah, let's pull the white knuckles off the dashboard. Let's practice fire and grace. That is the marching order for today and it's more of like a soft glide down the path.